And here we are on the 12th of April 2013, and I'm driving my Mazda to Nagano from here in Gunma Prefecture. And what you're about to see is we're going to go through the beautiful town of Shimonita. Shimonita in Gunma Prefecture. Now, where we've been staying is about 15 kilometres up in the mountains, just to the south of Shimonita, in the Yamabiko Hotel, which is a very nice spa hotel. But the reason we came to Shimonita in the first place is that we've actually been here before, but by train. And as you can see, it's in a very, very beautiful valley, high, jagged mountains on every side. The direction we're headed at the moment is actually east, and if we carried on this way, we'd end up in, firstly, Tomioka, home of the famous Tomioka Silk Mill, which is a World Heritage Site, and then we'd end up in Takasaki, a bigger city where you could get the bullet train or drive down to Tokyo. But we're not going to do that because we've actually got to take the car back to Nagano today, which is up to the northwest of here, higher up in the mountains. You can see here we're at the T-junction on the river. We're just on the riverside. Now we're actually going to go over this bridge in the river into the centre of Shimonita, and there's a beautiful old station in the middle of the town, which really is a little classic. It's a little terminus of the Joshu Electric Railway, which is a lovely old electric line. It takes an hour to tootle along to the big station at Takasaki, but it really is like going back in time. You know, little stations, small villages, station masters who bow, you know, old-fashioned paper tickets, things like that. A really nice experience. So we're going through the centre of Shimonita town now. You might just catch the river. There it is. And now look at the architecture. This is typical. Looking at the architecture now, this is typical small town shops and things. There's no chains here. There's only one supermarket in the town centre, and that hasn't been there very long. And now we're just negotiating our way through the middle of the town. See all the little Japanese signs and lamps and things, and there is the sign to Shimonita Station, 90 metres on the right. So if you perhaps have a look down the little alleys to the right, there we are. There's some very traditional shops on either side. And just make it through the lights and overtake this lady on a bike. Oh, there's an Akita hanging out the window, if any of you saw that. And now past the barbers, past various other shops, and there's an old person out doing their shopping. And this is mainly houses. And now we're going to take the left turn onto the 254 to Saku, which is a road of 2 tunnels and a huge number of bends, which gets you out of Gunma Prefecture and all the way up to Nagano Prefecture. And here we are now. You can see the woods that come right to the edge of the town, and the particularly jagged mountains just behind the town, which is of course why the railway terminates here. Obviously, there wasn't much prospect of building a small railway any further than this, and there isn't that much population to justify it beyond here. So the rest of the town is kind of strung out along the valleys, a little bit like Stroud in England. Definite similarity there. And now you can see some classic little Japanese buildings, a little bit of industry there on the right, mixed in. Some beautiful blossoms, of course. And we're on our way out of the town now, on the way to Gunma Prefecture, and on the way to Nagano Prefecture, and we'll just stay with it for the moment, and you'll see this kind of mixed development that is typical of the edge of towns in Japan. That one minute you've got, you know, beautiful cherry blossoms, things like that, but right next to it a workshop, you know, and then more traditional outlets. There's a hairdresser's we just passed on the left, and then we've got the ubiquitous 24/7 convenience store coming up on the left as well. And all this is actually, you'll see in a moment, is we're running parallel to that very wide river that we crossed 3 or 4 minutes ago. You will see the river again very shortly. At this time of year, you would have to say that the you know, the colours of the blossoms and the various flowers and things like that that all spring into life in the first half of April here in the mountain towns, you know, really does make it a very dramatic and stunning landscape. So we're just going to stop at this red light. Now this is Shimonita, which means the Osaka actually means lower slopes, and there's a particularly nice couple of blossoms on the right, just beyond the garage there, which you'll just see in a moment. Oh, a little bit of everything there: the red, the pink, the yellow, some white at the back, flowers, the lot. Now here we are on the river, you see, and this is the tributary that flows into the town, joins up with the rivers from the various other valleys, and by the time it gets to Tomioka, it's really quite a roaring river, and you know, it was enough to generate some power for industry. So this is a broader plain of agricultural land over there on the left, and unfortunately a little bit obscured by the roadworks here, but you would call this kind of area a Sasayama, which is the agricultural areas just before the mountains, and you know, they're a very important part of the Japanese ecosystem. The road is getting windier, and the buildings are getting a bit less frequent. The gaps between them are getting bigger. And eventually we'll be up in the mountains and, you know, leaving all the habitation behind. And there is the road off the right to Matsuda, which we tried yesterday, and that was actually very, very beautiful. Once you got over the top, you in a really beautiful valley. But we're going to carry on this time, and we'll just stay with it for a moment. The red light here, and I think we'll be calling it a day in just a second. But Blanca, can I ask you, what do you think of Shimonita as a place?
I think it's a very nice place. I think it has a lot of natural history, and it has also a geopark that you can visit because it has unique geological features. And it, however, retains all the charm of the old Japanese town. You know, having old Japanese houses and small businesses, and it's not as cosmopolitan as other towns, which I think is quite charming.
Yeah, I think you'd have to say that if you come to Shimonita by train, you know, the station itself is a throwback, you know, and then you come out of the station and all the shops are so old-fashioned, and you know, other than that one supermarket, there's hardly any chains or, you know, anything like that, and it has to feel like it must have felt getting off a train and walking around a Japanese town 50 years ago, you know. And then of course the other thing we haven't mentioned is that the first time Blanca and I came here together was in an October 3 or 4 years ago, and I don't know if you want to say something about
it was
that.
Full of moths. There was a moth blitz going in in the town, and that was absolutely amazing. We saw like what, 20 or 30 types of moths.
Oh yeah, I mean it's just innumerable. And if you stay there a day,
which proves two things. First, that there is not much other light where they go, but the lights of the little shops in the town.
Yeah.
And second, they must have a microclimate because that was in October. So it must have been quite warm for all the moths to go out on the same night.
Yeah, well I think it does have a microclimate, doesn't it? Because they have some special foods there, and I don't know if this has anything to do with the microclimate, but they grow a vegetable which we know is Welsh onion, which is an interesting thing, isn't it?
And they pickle it.
Yeah.
You can still see some cherry blossoms left on that mountain.
Yeah.
All those white trees are cherry blossoms.
Yeah.
And the pink blossoms are rhododendrons.
Yes.
And the other interesting thing about Shimonita is that apart from its geological value, it's also a pretty unknown place. I mean, there's not many tourists.
No.
It's definitely not exploited like maybe Kyoto or the little villages in other places are.
Well, like the Ie Valley in Chicago,
exactly.
Which in a sense was known as a particularly quiet backwater of Japan, a very traditional place. But I would argue that now Shimonita, if you want to see and there's an outlet there selling with little daikons and leeks and things like that. You know, if you want to see the real old-fashioned Japan, actually you're better off coming to somewhere like this, because you know this isn't set up for lots of tourists. This is what you're seeing is how the Japanese countryside really works.
And also, it's important to say that it's not that far from Tokyo.
No, absolutely. I mean, what is it, 150 kilometres from Tokyo? If you want to go by public transport, the bullet train to Takasaki takes about 45 minutes, and then you get onto the local line. That's about another hour. But that's a joy in itself. So it's a very accessible place, but not so well known. Yeah, so I think that more or less concludes what we wanted to say about Shimonita. So we're on our way to Nagano. We've got to give this car back, and then we're going to get the fast train back to Tokyo. But I'm really glad we spent some time here, and I think you know, it is a place that you know, is quite a special insight into rural Japan. And just to finish off, have a look at this bridge on the left. It looks like there's 3 characters on the bridge, but in fact they're just, I don't know if they're scarecrows or there's some other symbolism to them, but
we haven't quite figured that out.
So that's one mystery that remains. So anyway, thank you very much for watching the video, and this is Simon Oblaka in the edge of Shimonita, Gunma Prefecture, Japan, signing out.
Bye bye.